Back now with one of Tuesday's big primary winners, Pennsylvania Congressman Joe Sestak, who took on the establishment, the Democratic establishment in Pennsylvania, and took on the White House and beat Arlen Specter, who had switched from the Republican Party. Let me just ask you first about what I was asking Robert Gibbs about, this idea. Did the White House offer you a position in the administration if you would not run?
Yeah, I was asked that question months after it happened, and I felt an obligation to answer it honestly, and I said yes.
Can you tell us what job?
No, Bob, and then I said at the time, anything beyond that just gets into politics, and actually that's what I think is failing Washington, D.C. Principle doesn't seem to triumph over politics, where people come here and be willing to lose their job over doing what they said they would do. And so I just stay focused on what I had issued out there, which was a plan for Pennsylvania working families, from retirement security to educational opportunity for their children and small business opportunities. And that's what I just keep on talking about.
Well, let's talk about the race that you had with Arlen Specter. The White House was for Specter. They obviously wanted you not in the race, but you took them on. Now, will you ask for Barack Obama's help?
Boy, I have to tell you, the President was the very first one who called me, and I welcome his support. And I have to also tell you, Arlen Specter, when he called me, set a standard for graciousness, telling me, Joe, congratulations, I'm going to support you. Look, I watched a wonderful primary between Mrs. Clinton and Mr. Obama, and they steeled those candidates, much like this primary did. And we're going to come together because we believe in democratic principles, but I'm going to come to Washington then, sir. And I really do want to fight for working families. And yes, I'll stand up to the party if they're wrong, and they aren't going the right way for people in Pennsylvania. But I do believe in democratic principles.
Do you think the president would help you or hurt you if he came to Pennsylvania? And will you ask him to come?
I'd be honored to stand with the President of the United States. Honored.
You would be honored if he came. Have you asked him yet?
Sir, yeah, we had a nice discussion. He said, I look forward to you. He said, I support you, and I hope so.
So what do you think did it? Was this part of the anti-incumbent mood that's going on in the country right now? Because obviously there's a great deal of anger with Washington itself. What do you think your victory meant, and how do you think you did it?
When I had to go through those 67 counties last July and decide whether to get in or not after the establishment said, sit down, I'll never forget a farmer that said to me, when I asked him how the recession was, and he said, not too bad, I was hurting so much already. What I listened to was people had literally lost trust. They'd lost faith in Washington, D.C. They saw people actually more willing to try to take positions that might help them in their electoral prospects rather than standing up and with the courage of the convictions fighting for what was needed for them. They knew that Washington had lost focus. So I tell everyone it was a matter of trust, and I hope to earn that trust from them. I didn't run simultaneously, Bob, for my congressional job because I felt I had to begin to demonstrate. It wasn't about Joe Sestak and his job. It was about yours. That, more than anything, is when I said about the establishment, it's that trying to regain their trust, like in the Navy. A captain of a ship would always walk around, have captain's calls, and sit down and listen. At the end of the day, they get a cut of your jib. And then they'll follow you if they trust you to do anything. And that's what Washington has to regain.
You know, it's a very interesting point, and I absolutely take your point. But some people say that the reason that Washington doesn't work now is because in order to get to Washington, you have to raise so much money. You have to sign off with so many interest groups back home before you get there, that once you get to Washington, you can't compromise, that your positions are set in stone. How do you get around that?
It certainly was an issue for me in this primary, and it isn't going to be. Look, if you took money out of politics, you'd solve 80% of all the problems. So I'm co-sponsor a bill to move us towards public financing of campaigns. But at the end of the day, I can look someone in the eye and say, I appreciate your support, but I'm going to still do what's right. Look, I did everything I wanted to do by 1986. I commanded a ship at sea. This is paid back to this nation, as far as I'm concerned, because they took care of me and my family with TRICARE, wonderful health care. They took care of my daughter when she had a health issue. I wanted everyone to be like in the military, health opportunities, because the dividends that accrue to our nation are immense.
All right. Well, Congressman, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I hope we'll see you again as we go through this political year.